Let me be clear. I am not advocating an assassination attempt on Putin. It would be an incredibly radical and risky move that at the least would have to be done in conjunction with other Russian leaders. But you're talking about the risk of an all-out world war. But I have to believe that every possible option is being discussed as a what if behind the scenes. Joining me now is Greg Rinke, a military attorney now in private practice. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so how far do you think that these what if conversations are going? I mean, we're watching tonight as there may be a fire at the largest nuclear power plant in Europe based on Russian forces attacking it. And people are going to start asking, as he keeps escalating and escalating, at what point does this question need to be asked?
Well, at the point where it could lead to an imminent attack on the United States or an imminent attack on a NATO ally would be a point where I think that this really comes into play, where there's an imminent threat. At this point, we haven't reached that yet. Is it being discussed? I'm sure it was discussed, but as you already discussed earlier, there's an executive order that bans this, and also so does international law as well at this point.
But let me ask you this. When you're talking about situations like this, right, where you're talking about sort of existential threat questions, do the letter of the law, executive orders, take on the same level of significance as they might in another context?
Well, I mean, I think that's all relative. But as we saw President Reagan, what he did is this executive order, he withdrew it and he kind of played with the words a little bit so that he could go after, Hezbollah, and after TWA, the flight was shot down. He actually withdrew parts of that executive order. And that's really the difference with an executive order as opposed to a statutory law, is an executive order could be, basically withdrawn at any point by the president. So there are options on the table here.
Now, talk to us from a legal perspective for a moment. With the death of Soleimani in Iran, most legal scholars declared that was not a violation of the executive order. Why?
I think he was declared to be a terrorist, and also the fact that there was imminent threat and ongoing imminent threats emanating from him, it allowed us to take him out. And those imminent threats were directly against the United States and our allies.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out here is how significant a constraint the legal issues are versus the practical ones, right? I mean, it would seem to me that the bigger issue here is the practical ones, which is if you are going to even think about something like this, it's got to be a real problem. You've got to be ready for the potential ramifications.
Right. And, nobody wants to start World War III over this. And that is definitely something on the table is if you try and assassinate Putin at this point, and A, if you fail, what happens next? Or B, even if you're successful, who takes over in his place? Do we want to escalate to that point? I don't think we've reached that point yet.
Do you think that, but you do think that these conversations at least are quietly being discussed? I don't mean a plan, I don't mean a plot, but I've got to believe that they have to be talking about everything behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Everything is on the table, and these are being discussed. Are they seriously being discussed at this point? Probably not to be taken into action, but there's always got to be a plan. So it is being discussed, and the legalities are being looked at.
Yeah. All right. Greg Rinke, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We will continue to follow that breaking news. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.